curb weight, bore weight, GVM, gross trailer mass, ATM, it's all extremely confusing. So we'll try and put a little bit of light around the subject, and this is a video of the talk that we've done a couple of times at the club, although I've added a couple of new slides since we did that. Let's just go into a bit of an explanation. The main thing you've got to look at with your car is payload. It's how much you can add to your vehicle from its curb weight, which is set at the factory. So that's pretty the raw weight of the vehicle as it is, with a slight allowance for fuel and an allowance for having a driver. Then you've got GVM, which is the maximum it can weigh at any point in time. So the difference between the two, take the GVM, take off your curb weight, and you will get the payload, the amount of weight you can add to the vehicle. And that includes a lot of different things. Let's just have a look at a bit of a comparison of some cars, and it's really interesting when you have a look at this. The dual cabs, obviously being a lighter car when they come off the line, but still having all the suspension and everything to carry weight, are far better at carrying loads. So you look at the Mazda BT50, the Triton, the Ford Ranger, all around 1200. The D-Max is up there over a ton. The more conventional type four-wheel drives like the Mitsubishi Pajero and the Prado are a lot less. The one that stands out though is the Toyota Land Cruiser, which everyone says, well, that's your go-to tow vehicle, and yes, it can tow a heavier weight than a lot of the other cars there, but it's got a payload of only 560 kilograms because it's a very heavy vehicle to start with. Those figures too, I've just got them from the internet from a bit of searching. They do vary depending on models and whether it's automatic or manual as well. So it's a bit of a guide. It's not definitive, but it does apply to some models. Let's just have a look at the Pajero, a curb mass of 225 and a maximum GVM of 3030 kilograms, over 3 ton. And if you take the typical, that gives you a payload of 775. If you take the typical things that you tend to add to a car, you know, you fill it up with fuel for a start. The Pajero, actually, mine will hold 146 litres, so that's light on that 100. Cargo drawers with all the gear in them could be 70 kilograms, with things stored underneath them as well, as I've got in mine, like recovery gear and all sorts of things. You put a fridge in the back and fill it up with all the goods. It could be heavier than 15. We throw a water jerry in the back as well. Put a couple of people in the car, a second battery in the front, a bull bar on the front. I don't have a winch, but you might put a winch in there, another 35, and allow a bit for sundries. It gets up pretty quickly, so you've got 545 kilograms, and that's not carrying any people in the back. You know, you put a couple of passengers in at the back as well, and you're really up there. The allowance left though is 230 kilograms, so it looks okay on that scenario, but it's all a bit of guesswork. I took the Paj to a weighbridge, fully loaded, and came back with figures of 1680 on the back axle and 1260 on the front. So the good thing about the weighbridge is you can actually weigh it over 2 different plates and get weights front and back, which I'll show you later is extremely important. That gave me a total of 2940, so I'm a long way from being 260 kilograms short, and in fact I'm under the GVM, the maximum amount it can weigh, by only 90 kilograms, and that was fully loaded in the car with fuel and everything else. You start to add a caravan to that, and we started to run into problems because the caravan tow ball weight that it exerts right there on the back of the car has to be added to, it's the same as adding 220 kilograms of dead weight into the back of the car. And when you do that, the back axle goes up to 1900, and now I'm well over. I'm 130 kilograms over, if that was the scenario in this case. Interestingly enough, the Pajero, and like a lot of the others, can actually have a legal gross combined mass, which is the weight of the trailer and the car, of 6 ton. If you add the mass of my caravan and the car together, you only get 5,120. So I'm legal as according to the total weight by 910. The problem is that the weight is not well distributed, and it's pushed, there's more weight on the car than there should be, and the van would probably have a bit up its sleeve. So even though the whole thing says, if you weighed it and said terrific, I can tow 6 tonne, or I can be 6 tonne all up, and I'm only 5120, I'm under by 910, well, you can see there that the car itself is over by 130. Try a lighter van. You think a Pajero towing a T-van, not a problem, but a T-van has a fair ball weight, 170. That makes 1850 on the back, and we're still over by 80 kilograms just towing a T-van. Put a camper trailer on the back, and they're a lot lighter, 90 kilograms. It'll come out just legal. You haven't got a lot of wriggle room, and that's just, it's an amazing figure when you look at it. And then of course if you're going remote, you stick a tyre on the roof of the car or whatever you might put up there, you put another 24 kilograms up, and now you're over by that amount. So what's the solution? Well, as far as a caravan goes, there's a weight distribution hitch you can actually add, which will take the weight off the back of the car and throw it back to the caravan. It's one way of doing it, other than unloading the car with a lot of the gear and the water jerrys and all those things I was talking about and putting them into the caravan. But then you've got to be careful you don't overstock the caravan on its maximum allowable weights as well. Anyway, these are actual weighbridge measurements when I took my van down to Scoresby. 1940 on those back wheels, and the van has an allowance gross trailer mass for those wheels to be up to 2290, so I had a fair bit of play there. I've got ample room to move anything from the car that was sitting in the car, and I did have a barbecue and things like that in the back, to put them in the van. But be aware, you don't put them at the back of the wheels, and you don't have anything up high. You've got to keep the centre of gravity low and in front of the wheels. So if you had a weight distribution hitch to the whole scenario, things change. So we'll go back and have a look. This is with no hitch, so with the 1940 on the van wheels, 1860 on the back of the car, and 1180 on the front. Actually, if you go back to that slide I had before, the car on its own, you can see that the caravan has not only added weight to the back wheel, it's taken weight off the front, and that's not good for your steering. So in that scenario there, I'm 10 kilograms over. These are the actual measurements, as opposed to the previous slide I was showing, which was sort of giving you an idea but not exactly weighed. So this is exactly as it was on the weighbridge. 10 kilograms over on the car if you add the two together. So put the weight distribution hitch on, and all of a sudden, if you look to the left there, the weight on the caravan wheels has gone from 1940 up to 2000. So 60 kilograms has been added to the van wheels, and it's got to have come from somewhere. And what you'll find is, if you look at the back wheel of the car, it now is showing 1700 kilograms. So that's actually lost 160 kilograms. Now we know 60's gone to the van wheels, 160's come off the back wheels, which is good. We're missing 100. And then when I had a look at the front plate and the wheels, the 100 went onto the front wheels of the car. So if you look at the bottom line of the whole three, it adds up to the same amount, but the weight has been distributed as it says, weight distribution hitch, from the back wheels of the car to the front of the car and to the van. So it's like shifting gear out of the back of your car. The total is still okay, but when you look at the measurements of the front and the back wheel of the car now, it now measures 2980 instead of 3040, because that 60 kilograms has gone to the van, which, as we saw before, the van was more than capable of taking it. In fact, it's still got a couple of hundred I could keep adding. So we're just over in that configuration. The only problem is, I'll just go back to that, just make a note there of the 1700 on the back axle of the car. The car has ratings on what the axle weights can be. Now, when I didn't have the weight hitch on, and we thought, well, okay, we're only 10 kilograms over, when you add the two weights together back to the 1860 and the 1180, this is without the hitch, 3040, I'm only 10 kilograms over on what the car's supposed to be. But when I looked up the specs of the axles each one. The limit on the back axle of a Pajero is 1780, set by the manufacturer, and the limit on the front is 1330. So now I've got a problem. I'm not just 10 kilograms over when you add the two together. I'm actually 80 kilograms over on the back axle. So the summary is, you need first of all to load up the car and take it to a weighbridge. You've got to check against the manufacturer's limits and also find out what the axle limits are, because they're a little bit harder to get, but you'll be able to get them online or through your car user manual. Know what the ball weight is on the van, and add the ball weight to the rear axle. And you check against the limits again and again. Know your van carrying capacity, because there is generally an option to add weight to the van, but as I said, not on the back of the van. Don't go hooking big toolboxes on the back of your caravan. There was a video we showed at the club recently of vans just totally out of control, and generally because of weight behind the wheels and not low down. So as I say, move the weight to the trailer, low down, keep the centre of gravity low, and check all the limits. And if you can put a weight distribution hitch on, but it does not apply to off-road trailers, so you can't have a weight distribution hitch if you're going through shallow creek crossings and coming up the other side, so you have to adjust your weights accordingly. But if you're just doing road trip with a caravan, then we believe you should have a weight distribution hitch all the time. And that was also the advice we had from one of our guests who was from Harding Swifts at one of them at the meeting. I hope that's explained a little bit. Please check everything and make sure you're legal. Don't leave it to chance.